Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to our webinar today. This is the last webinar in our series called Ahead of the Curve, Digital Marketing Tips, Tricks, and Strategies for Businesses During COVID-19. Before we get started, let's just do a quick sound check. Next slide there, please. Okay, just put in the question there. You're coming through. Great. Excellent. Okay, and just a few housekeeping items before we get going here. The session will be recorded. All lines are muted, but there is a question box there, so we'd encourage you to put your questions in there during the course of the session. We will have time for Q&A at the end. If you do happen to have any audio issues, we do have a lot of people that come into these webinars, and so occasionally there's some audio issues. Just log out and log back in. That often fixes it. Or you can dial in using the number provided. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview about WSI. WSI has been around for 25 years. We started in '95. We've literally helped over 100,000 businesses with their digital marketing over that time across multiple industries. And so when COVID-19 hit, we really wanted to do something to help businesses, provide them some strategies that they can do, because a lot of businesses are certainly being forced to digitize today. So hopefully this series has been a big help. We've got an amazing session for you today. It's around digital strategy. And so I just want to bring in our guest today. And so this session is really going to recap some of the things we've been talking about over the last several weeks. We know that certainly the company that you probably went into this pandemic as and the way that you operated and marketed is going to be very different, or it should be different than the company that's coming out. And hopefully some of these tips have helped you with that process. So rethinking strategy for a post-COVID-19 economy is super important. And so our guest today, Carlos Guzman, comes to us from Mexico City. Carlos has been a digital marketer for over 15 years. He's an international speaker. He's been featured in key media forums. He's also been recognized as having one of the top agencies in Mexico. Carlos is also the author of our chapter on strategy in WSI's best-selling book, Digital Minds. We've got a lot to get through. I know we're going to be pushed for time here, so we want to get to it right away. Carlos, welcome. It's amazing to have you on here today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, and welcome to this end of series webinar. Glad to be with all of you. So we have really an interesting agenda today. We are going to understand which elements of the digital marketing strategy might have changed. We are going to discover which things you might need to redefine. You will get a toolbox that you can use with a lot of suggestions of apps and softwares that can get you moving. You will get a guide of the previous webinars we have on this series, so you can go back and probably drill down to those webinars, and obviously the question and answers section. So we'll know that in order to reach our target audience, we must have a solid digital marketing strategy in place. This is a pre-COVID. This is something that everybody needs to do. In our book, as you all know, we have published 3 books on digital marketing. On the last book, we are proposing an easy path to digital planning. We actually published a checklist that guides you through the planning process. And on chapter 3 of the book, you can see that you will find this checklist. I'm not going to go through the checklist here, but you can check it out on chapter 3 of the book. And I trust that many owners maybe have already, because they are in contact and you are in contact with a WSI consultant, probably you have gone through many of these items on the checklist. And this checklist needs to be revised now because COVID came in and changed everything. So even though you might already have a digital marketing strategy in place, COVID has changed everything. And we as business owners and managers, we need to revisit this strategy. Now, we do have a challenge, an important challenge here. because the first thing that we all business owners need to understand is that right now we need to rededicate more time to strategy. Many leaders and management teams have been dedicating a lot of time to mitigating the financial, the legal, and the operational risks, dedicating very little time to reevaluating the strategy on the business. And for the last few months and weeks, that was okay. We were coping with the crisis, and we're still doing that. But if the market is really changing that much, if we're hearing a lot of changing in habits, in how the people is behaving, then the strategic business risk will have the higher likelihood of occurrence. And we have to go back and revisit this. We all need to dedicate more time to strategic thinking. In this graph, you can see that the likelihood of occurrence to strategic business risks is 86%. And nevertheless, we as business owners and executive teams are only dedicating a small part of our time to strategic business thinking, and we have to change that at least as we start going back to the market. So let's review which parts of the strategy need to be revisited. Some of them have to be rethought and updated for the post-COVID situation. So for each one of these strategies, we will review it. I will be referring a toolbox and one of our past webinars for that specific topic. So when you see that small green sign with a guy with a wrench on his hand, that means that you can find either a webinar or a toolbox that will help you follow this rethinking of the strategy. I hope these resources will help you go deeper into each one of the topics. So let's dig in. Strategy number 1, review and update your buyer persona. The original buyer persona you had identified in the past might have changed. Problems, concerns, interests, feelings, and even habits might have changed. So do not assume that your buyer persona today is the same as the one you had identified pre-COVID. You have to do a new exercise and update your buyer persona. The updated buyer persona probably expects new things, different things from suppliers. They probably are now visiting different websites than the ones they used to visit, or are using different and new channels that they did not use before. So you need to do a buyer persona definition, have to revisit that, and you can refer to our presentation from April 22nd, where we had a webinar that was called Understanding Your Target Audience, and you can dig in there for more detail. By re-understanding your target audience, we mean two things. Keep in mind that your new buyer persona analysis must focus on updating your current buyer personas, the one that you already knew and know, but you should also focus on discovering new buyer personas that probably you were not considering before. And when you have both, doing a cross match between the old one or the current buyer personas and those new ones that you are discovering can help you find some similarities for your strategy. Let's go into strategy number 2. Enhance your marketing intelligence. We know that everything is changing, and as the market recovers, the dynamics and new trends will start unfolding. So you need to be monitoring everything to be able to react promptly. So using marketing intelligence will help you to detect new patterns as they are arising. Keep in mind that Google Trends is a great tool. It's a free tool that you can consult. You can build rivers of information where you get a lot of information and put it in one single depository like Feedly or Pocket. Obviously, all the blogs, and you can check on our own blog as you start going into reading more about trends. So the WSI World blog is a very good resource for you. You will continue probably to attend webinars, and do not forget to use keyword research. Keyword research is a great way to unveil how trends are moving, as people doing different and new searches are a good indicator of how the market is moving. And also use social listening. Through social listening, you can discover conversations, mentions, and sentiment regarding any topic related to your business that might have changed during this crisis. Strategy number 3, Get to know your current or new competition online. Some of your competitors might have disappeared. Some have reduced their activities. Some new competitors might be in the arena right now and are probably arising. And some of your existing competitors might have launched, new products, new services, new service conditions, new pricing, or new payment terms. So conducting a new competitive research is a very important part of the post-COVID strategy. You can review our webinar from April 8th on how to analyze the marketing activities of your competitors and drill down into this strategy number 3. Let's go into strategy number 4. Let's go into strategy number 4. Validate your differentiation in the market. What used to sustain your differentiation might not be a differentiator now. So for example, let's say that your business was different because the decoration and the convenience of your physical store and all your marketing was directed to get traffic into your physical store. But now your customer has developed probably a new habit of shopping online. So now the effort you used to put in your storefront maybe has to go into building an enhanced user experience in your e-commerce site. So we suggest you track the behavior of your visitors to your website and compare the current patterns to the previous patterns that you had and see what's different, what has changed. You can do a website audit and see how fast it responds, do a conversion architecture, do a heat map analysis, and try to learn more about your new website as the new habits are considering websites a new way to go and buy online. Strategy number 5, obviously with all these, you have to redefine your goals. We all had goals and objectives pre-COVID, and now they have probably changed. You have to review like if your original goals are still valid. We probably must establish some less aggressive, more realistic goals, probably some recovery zone goals that are temporary. And all this means that you have probably to go back into your analytics. If you're tracking everything on Google Analytics, then you have to go back and reconfigure your Google Analytics and set the new goals for your digital campaigns. And for that, you can find one of your WSI consultants to help you reconfigure and reset all the objectives and the paths in your Google Analytics. Strategy number 6, close monitor of your customer journey is needed more than ever. With all the changes in the buyer persona, the competition, the market, the differentiation, your customer, the journey needs to be closely tracked so you can define very specific actions for the top of the funnel, the mid of the funnel, and the bottom of the funnel. You can use marketing automation solutions to score your leads as that prospect is moving through the funnel. So your marketing actions are designed very well accordingly to the position of that lead in the funnel. Obviously, you cannot afford to lose a customer today. Any customer that you lose in the funnel and you do not know why, well, it's a lost opportunity and it's a lost learning opportunity. So with marketing automation, with chatbots, with all the conversational marketing that we discussed on April 29th on our webinar that date, you can get some feeling of how to nurture and analyze the actions of your leads, and then probably building an automation engine or a chatbot that help you nurture and help your leads move through the funnel. Now, please do not forget your website. Keep in mind that your website can become a conversion machine. If you use the right techniques on the website and you use the right conversion architecture techniques, then your website can start converting at a higher rate. With all the findings from revisiting your buyer persona, your new competitive analysis, you might have to do also some changes in your website. Maybe your message has to change. Maybe you need some sections in your website, but you have to make sure that everything that you have in your website is directed toward conversion. And there's a lot of conversion techniques that properly used can increase the effectiveness of your website as a conversion machine. We had a great webinar on May sixth around conversion architecture that you can revisit and get a deep dive into this topic. So moving into strategy number 7, it's content. You know, since a couple of years, we knew that video was becoming more and more important, to the point where any good engagement metrics in social networks like Facebook and Instagram could only be reached if you use video. But now, as people have spent more and more time on the internet and in social media, video is a must. So there is no way in which you can have a content strategy that's effective if it does not include an important percentage of video content. So it is time probably to go back and review your content calendars and make sure that video and animation is a good part of that content plan. Also keep in mind that as people became used to webinars, live and recorded, you should also explore this type of regular content. And also keep in mind that many households invested in better technology, faster internet, faster access, bigger monitors. So a good percentage of the users are now better equipped to consume more video. So think of this acronym, TASSC, for your video and webinars strategy. So you can build your video around teaching, or around answering frequent questions, around showing your product or solution, around solving the problems that the leads usually have, and about comparing to other solutions. You can go in more depth to this topic by revisiting our webinar from April 1st. So strategy number 8, paid advertising. The channels you were using for paid advertising will still hold. You know, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube will continue to be the main digital media. But now we have to start keep tracking of TikTok, which has become the new player and the clear winner in terms of downloads and users during this crisis. It is probably premature to consider paid advertising in TikTok, but we do recommend that you secure your TikTok profile and start analyzing which type of engaging content you might start using for your brand. There's a lot of engagement in TikTok today. Now, remember that in social, you need a strategy that combines organic and paid. If your competitors stopped advertising, then restarting before them and getting your first mover advantage with a plus of getting cheaper cost per click, which we have still right now. Now, it can be a good advantage for you in the early stage of the comeback. During the crisis, advertising in many sectors became less expensive, and moving fast could benefit you with lower cost of clicks and lower budgets for a good result in paid campaigns, at least temporarily. Obviously, anything you do, do not forget to measure everything and keep track with analytics. Strategy number 9, invest in organic traffic, invest in search engine optimization, SEO. Being able to get constant organic traffic into your website is really, believe me, an insurance policy. Think of SEO as your vaccine for the next time you have to reduce or suspend your paid advertising campaigns. Companies that were generating organic traffic thanks to SEO continued to receive leads even when they had to reduce or suspend paid advertising during the worst part of COVID. So if you have not invested in SEO in the past, you really need to start now. And it's a wise consideration to do it with an expert. We at WSI are experts in SEO, and you need an expert because Google continues to change and update the algorithm all the time. So the optimization tasks are really every time more specialized. We had a good webinar on SEO on April 13th that you can go back and revisit. Strategy number 10, build and exploit your customer database. Think of your database as your most valuable asset. If you created a robust database pre-COVID, then you need to start enhancing it. And if you did not, this is another thing you need to start doing right now. Leverage all your databases. In order to do it properly and to exploit such information wisely, you need a marketing automation solution that includes a robust CRM engine on the inside. We have a lot of expertise at WSI in CRM and in automation solutions, and your WSI consultant can certainly help you with that. It's not only having a database and sending random emails, it's building a complete strategy that can be automated. So also, if you want to revisit this topic, we had a good webinar on April 15th, and a replay of that topic could give you some insights on the database asset at your company. So final strategy. So there are so many metrics here that need to be monitored that having an executive analytics dashboard, it's a very good idea. A dashboard is a place where most of the important metrics of all your campaigns can be concentrated and displayed in a very friendly format. And by having that dashboard, you as a business owner, you as the head of marketing can be keeping track in a daily periodicity, or probably twice a week, of all the important metrics that you have. Such a dashboard should be reviewed. My recommendation is at least twice a week, and probably you can space it more in a weekly periodicity after they start to get momentum. Your campaigns start to get momentum. Think of the dashboard as your very friendly window to all the analytics and the way you are going to be directing all your strategies. We also have a webinar recording around analytics in May 20th. So you can go and seek that webinar and dig deep into that topic. All these previous strategies that we have revisited, all of them should help you on on four fronts. Basically, it's like all businesses have to focus on four fronts. Recovering revenue, I think that is the more urgent. Rebuilding operations, because habits and the way we operate might have changed. Rethinking your organization as the new habits and needs have uncovered, and obviously accelerating the adoption of digital solutions. We suggest that you prioritize your actions accordingly to the impact. On this graph, the light blue circles will give you short-term high impact results. And many of the strategies we have revisited today will help you there, will help you bring more leads and bring more customers to your digital properties. So if this is something you are considering, it's a good idea to go and revisit all our webinars and revisit all the tools that I have shared with you today. Rebuild your strategy and be able to start fresh again. So as a wrap up, we know that better days are coming. Our past weeks and months have not been that good, but better days are coming. So we have to prepare for the next round. If there comes a time in the future that we need to stop our businesses again for being public, we need to isolate, then it's a very good idea to have a very sound digital strategy. Depending on each country, the stages of the COVID curve might be different. But in all of them, these better days are coming, and any effort we invest in redefining and implementing our strategy today should better prepare us in case we have to face another crisis like this again. And if not, we will be in great shape to a very good comeback and start regaining volume and revenue in all our business. So we should all get to work on this. So I think that is my presentation. Let me summarize. We have established that the comeback needs a strategy. We cannot just think that everything will be just as before. All the components of the digital strategy need to be revisited and updated. We have to measure everything. Analytics and metrics are more important than ever. It is a new start that will uncover new trends and new dynamics in the market. So use market intelligence to catch them, to be wise, to be on top of things and react with opportunity. If we see this as a new beginning, then let's approach it with the same passion that we had when we started probably months or years ago in our businesses. So that's it for today. All yours, Mike. Back to you.
Great, great. Well, thank you, Carlos. And we definitely got some questions here coming in. So that's great. And I just got to say, I'm very surprised how efficient you were at getting through all those tips. I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do that, but as Carlos had shared with you guys through the course of the presentation, obviously we've gone in depth in a number of these different areas, and so you can get access to those recordings, to the individual sessions, to be able to go in depth about some of the tools and things like that that Carlos referenced. So before we get to the Q&A, I just want to remind a couple of people of some things. Next slide there, please. More information on strategy, as well as a number of different digital marketing topics, things that we've been covering here over the last several weeks, are available in our Digital Minds book, which is available on Amazon. Just type in WSI Digital Minds. This is our 3rd edition, and certainly you've heard from some of the authors over the last several weeks. Next slide, please. Also, as Carlos mentioned, if you are looking for help with any of these topics, whether it's your digital marketing strategy, whether it's any of the areas of digital that we've been speaking about over the last several weeks, reach out to your consultant. I mean, we're here to help you as businesses to kind of go through this process, provide you tips and advice and so forth. And certainly they can go much more in detail on the questions that you have as well. And if you don't know who that consultant that invited you is, then just reach out to us, contact@wsiworld.com. And so I think we're going to get to some Q&A. Certainly with this being our last session, also I just want to remind you that we want to hear from you. You know, there's been a lot of great feedback we've had over these last several weeks that these series are really helpful, that you've had some tips. And so we're going to be reaching out to you for a little bit more feedback from you in terms of how we can maybe continue to educate you on an ongoing basis. But let's get to some Q&A. Carlos, one of the questions that came up was around social mentions. It was earlier on in your presentation. You mentioned it's a good time to be tracking some of the social mentions. Is there any way that you would specifically kind of, you know, any tips you could give to a business on how they might do that?
Yes, well, there are a lot of platforms today in the market that can go out and gather a lot of big data and then segment it, cross-related, and get very good insights from these platforms. These platforms are not easy to use and are not that cheap. So it's always good to look for a supplier that can give you the full service. So they have the technology, they have the services, and they have the intelligence to interpret all these data. So by doing that, you can measure the volume of any topic, you can measure the sentiment of any topic, you can detect the influencers that are talking about that topic. You learn the market again, you learn what the people is saying, and then from there, you can draft or redraft your strategy by going out, listening to the market, and with that insight, you come back. But it's done through social listening platforms, and there's a lot of services that include all the platform, the technology, the processes, and the skills to exploit that data.
Okay, great. And so, yeah, a little bit more in depth, it sounds like. Good question here, just in relation to advertising. And I think you made great comments there about the fact that there are less, the CPCs tend to be a little bit less because some businesses have pulled back, but we've definitely seen advantages of first mover advantages. We've seen sort of in the past, there's been sort of evidence of companies investing in marketing during these times. Actually, when they come out, they perform better. But one of the questions here is, how do I know which paid channels would make sense for me for my business? Are there any recommendations you would give there?
Well, obviously, the way that each one of the paid channels has behaved depends on the sector and the industry, depends on the country, and depends on the product. So I would say that your WSI consultant can help you analyze specific data on your geography and on your segment, and he can guide you to where you can find the best opportunities of advertising, either through search, which would be very good for lead generation, or either as well through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, all the social media channels. But you're required to do like an analysis of the segments, the geography, and the products, and your WSI consultant can really help you do that mapping, and then a good recommendation of where you can invest your money on this comeback.
Okay, great. And I think you made a good tip just about TikTok. I mean, we've been hearing more about TikTok. You know, advertising is fairly pricey on TikTok right now, but a good strategy for people today is just go in there and make sure they've got their domain. They reserve sort of their company profile on TikTok, almost as if, you know, each of these new platforms when they come out, it's always a good idea to do that, so you don't end up down the road saying, geez, I wish I would have actually reserved that for my business. Let's just see here. Question here was regarding data. So good question. Somebody's got they're running a coaching business. And anything you would recommend in terms of tracking specific data?
Well, yes. Keep in mind that when you are trying to track topics that are very wide, very horizontal, you'll get a lot of data, but probably that data would not drive you to very specific marketing action. So it's always good to drill down what we call the short tail keywords, for example, in a search analysis, in which if you're talking about coaching, when try to segment the coaching services, the coaching specialties, and then do an analysis of each one of those, because coaching is so wide that probably you will not get enough data to give you insights. But if you start drilling down, if you start really segmenting through the different specialties of coaching and the different ways, for example, people would look and would search into coaching, then that data will be more insightful, will mean more, and will drive you to some strategies. So yeah, well, data can get, you can get data from Google Trends, you can get data from all the analysis for any paid search keywords that your WSI consultant can help you do. You can get insight from Facebook, you can get social listening, but the data that you get, if it's too wide, if it's too horizontal, probably will not guide you to a very specific action. So I would say drill down, look for the long tail topics, long tail keywords, and then do the research on that very specific segments of data, and that will give you very good information on where you need to move forward.
Okay, great. And when we talk about long tail keywords, this is where you're talking about basically more specific as opposed to a broad topic like coaching. It's more specific on, you know, a very, you know, specific element of that coaching, which is again is what we call more of a long tail type of description.
Correct.
Well, great questions here. I know we didn't get a chance to get to all of it. We're a little bit over time here. Not too bad today. But do want to remind people that you can access the recordings of the series. They're on our website. If you go to the WSI World site, in the at the bottom there, you're going to see, when you scroll down to the bottom, you're going to see a link to the Head of the Curve series, so you can get access to that. Next slide there. Also just want to remind you, you know, if you need help with any of this, we know digital can be very complex. If you need help with any of this, your WSI consultant is really there to help guide you through this process. And again, if you don't know who that is, you can reach out to us, contact at wsiworld.com. Next slide. Also, just want to remind you to share your thoughts. So we're going to send out a, you know, as we've done every webinar through the series, you're going to get the post-webinar questionnaire. And so certainly take a couple of minutes to do that. But we also want to reach out to you just to find out a little bit more. We've had such amazing feedback from the series, recognizing that, you know, these tips and strategies really are hitting home with a lot of you, and so forth. And we want to hear, would you attend more WSI webinars? You know, what sort of frequency would you kind of see that? What's most valuable? Are there any specific digital marketing topics that you think would be super valuable for you? And so you're going to probably hear, you know, that's going to hit your inbox there, and we'd love to get your feedback. And again, you know, hopefully this has been a valuable series for you. This extended, we originally thought it was going to be 5, and then we extended it to 8. So, and we're hoping that you're all doing well. and wish you all the best as we come out of this. Again, thanks for joining us. We're always here to help you, and stay tuned for future WSI sessions. So thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.